It started with a knock, every morning at 7:30 a.m., like clockwork. There he was, Jake, standing at my front door with a warm smile and 2 takeaway cups of coffee. I used to joke that he had better timing than my alarm clock. I don't even remember how the tradition started. Maybe the day I looked like a walking ghost during a power outage, and he offered me one of his extra cups. Or maybe the morning he saw me crying over burnt toast, and came back 5 minutes later with a croissant and a cappuccino. I only know it became the best part of my day. Jake was my next-door neighbor for 3 years. He was charming, always polite, a bit mysterious in that guy who reads books on his balcony way. He never mentioned a girlfriend, never brought anyone home, never stayed out late. And yet somehow he knew exactly how I liked my coffee, extra foam, 2 sugars, a hint of cinnamon. Even my ex never remembered that. We'd chat for 5, maybe 10 minutes every morning, sometimes about silly things like our nosy landlord or the stray cat that kept showing up in our hallway. Sometimes about deeper stuff, his mom's health, my messy breakup, dreams we once had but were too scared to chase. And then came that morning, the morning he showed up late. I was about to close the door, thinking he'd forgotten or moved on when I saw him standing there, completely soaked in the rain, holding out the coffee like it was a peace offering. "I almost didn't come today," he said, his voice quieter than usual. But I couldn't let the streak break. I laughed, thinking he was just being funny, but he didn't laugh back. He took a breath. "I've brought you coffee every day for a year because it's the only excuse I had to see you without messing everything up." I froze. Jake looked nervous, more nervous than I'd ever seen him. His hand shook a little as he passed me the cup. I noticed he'd drawn a little heart on the lid. "I wish you were mine," he said, eyes searching mine like he was waiting for permission to keep talking, or maybe to run away. My heart didn't know whether to pound harder or stop altogether. So many questions raced through my mind. Was this a joke? Was he serious? Had I been blind this whole time? Had he felt something I ignored, or was too afraid to feel? I stepped aside and let him in. He looked surprised but followed without a word. As he dried off on the couch, I sat across from him, cradling the cup like it might answer all the questions he had just asked without speaking. And that's when I noticed something new. There was only one cup this time, just mine. He hadn't bought coffee for himself. He wasn't coming for the caffeine anymore. He was coming for me. I didn't say anything right away. I couldn't, not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt everything all at once. His words, "I wish you were mine," echoed louder than the thunder still grumbling outside. Jake had always been the quiet comfort in my chaos, the steady beat to my unpredictable mornings, the smile I didn't realize I depended on. And now he was looking at me like I was his home. "I'm sorry," he finally said, wiping rain from his hair. "That was selfish. I didn't mean to make things weird." "Jake," I started, but my voice caught in my throat. "No, really," he interrupted, giving that half-laugh people do when they're trying not to fall apart. You always looked like you needed a friend. And I thought maybe, if I was there, even just with coffee, you'd feel less alone. But somewhere along the way, I stopped doing it for you and started doing it for me. You became my favorite part of every day." His words didn't feel rehearsed. They felt raw, like they'd been bottled up for too long and had finally exploded without warning. I stared at the steam rising from my cup, thinking back to all the mornings he showed up, even on the worst days. The day my ex came to return my things and Jake stayed outside with me, pretending not to notice the tears. The day I got the call about my job, and he brought donuts with my name written in frosting. The morning I didn't open the door, and he left the coffee on the welcome mat with a sticky note that just said, "I'm here if you need me." I looked up at him and whispered, "You were never just a friend." His eyes softened, like he hadn't expected me to say that. "I didn't know it until now," I added. "Or maybe I did, but I was scared of what it meant. You were my safe space, and I didn't want to ruin that." "You could never ruin anything," he said gently, "not with me." For a few seconds, the world outside disappeared. The rain, the ticking clock, the sound of our neighbor's dog barking down the hall, none of it existed. Just the two of us, and the space between us that suddenly didn't feel so wide. I stood up, walked over to where he sat, and took his hand. "I don't want to drink coffee alone anymore," I whispered. He looked at me, his fingers tightening around mine. "I was hoping you'd say that," he said with the tiniest smile. And just like that, everything changed. But something deep inside me also knew. This wasn't just about coffee, or routine, or even affection. There was more. There was something he wasn't telling me. Something in the way he hesitated before he left his apartment that morning. The look in his eyes that held both hope and fear. I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a truth I wasn't ready for. Jake didn't stay long after that. He said he had somewhere to be, but the way he avoided my eyes made it feel like he was running from something. Or maybe someone, before he left. He squeezed my hand one last time and said, "I'll see you tomorrow, same time." I nodded, but something about the way he asked felt different. It didn't carry the usual warmth, it carried weight, like he wasn't sure I would. The next morning, I was up early. I wore the soft blue sweater he once said made my eyes look like stormy skies. I even brushed my hair, which I never did before coffee. But when the clock hit 7:30, there was no knock. I waited. 7:45, nothing. By 8:10, I opened the door and peeked out. The hallway was quiet, his door was closed. Lights off, I stared at that door far longer than I should have, wondering if I should knock, but I didn't. By noon, worry chewed at my chest. He never missed a day, even when he was sick. He texted to apologize for not bringing the coffee. But this time, no text, no note, no coffee. I messaged him, "Hey, you okay? Missed my caffeine angel today." No reply. I paced around my apartment, checking my phone every 5 minutes, opening the blinds every time I heard footsteps, but no Jake. That night I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through our old chats, rereading every cheesy meme he'd sent me, every random joke about the neighbors, every sweet word he never realized meant more to me than he knew. And then at 2:03 a.m., my phone lit up. "Jake, there's something I have to tell you. I didn't want to ruin what we have, but it's time. Meet me on the rooftop tomorrow morning. 7:30, no coffee, just truth." I stared at the screen, my heart thudding. No coffee, just truth. What kind of truth? 100 possibilities raced through my mind. Was he married, dying, leaving town, hiding something dark, or was this just him finally being brave? The next morning, I barely slept. I threw on a hoodie, grabbed a blanket, and took the stairs up to the rooftop, my palms sweating. The sky was a mix of pink and gold. The city was still waking up. And then I saw him, Jake, standing by the edge, hands in his pockets, eyes on the sunrise. He turned when he heard my footsteps, and his smile, it wasn't his usual smile. It was softer, sadder, but full of something else too. "I was scared you wouldn't come," he said. "I almost didn't," I admitted, "but I couldn't stay away." He took a deep breath, then looked at me like he was about to hand me the last piece of a puzzle he'd hidden for a year. And what he said next changed everything. Jake looked down at his feet, like the weight of what he was about to say had been living there for too long. Then his eyes found mine. "I haven't been honest with you," he said quietly, not completely. My heart dropped. I suddenly couldn't hear the birds, or feel the breeze brushing my face. Just him, just those words. I nodded, too scared to speak. He ran a hand through his hair. "When I moved into the building, I wasn't just some guy looking for a new place or fresh start. I came here because of you." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" I whispered, my voice barely hanging on. He gave me a shaky smile. "You don't remember me, do you?" I blinked. "Should I?" "We went to high school together. You sat 2 rows in front of me in Mr. Lawson's English class. You once lent me your notes when I had the flu. I never forgot that." My mouth parted in disbelief. I searched his face, and there it was. Something familiar in his eyes. The same warmth, just hidden by time. "I used to write poems about you," he added, blushing, "but I never had the guts to talk to you. Then you moved away, and I figured I'd never see you again. I felt dizzy, so you moved here just to be near me. I found you on Instagram 2 years ago." He admitted, "Saw you had just moved into this apartment. I'd just left a job I hated and didn't know where to go next. So I took a chance, got a place next door. Told myself I'd just be your friend, but then you answered the door in that oversized hoodie with sleepy eyes and bedhead, and I was gone." Tears stung the back of my eyes, not from fear, not from anger, but from the overwhelming realization that this man had quietly been loving me from the sidelines, showing up without expecting anything in return, for years. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I asked, my voice cracking. He looked out at the city skyline. "Because I thought it would scare you. I didn't want to be the guy who showed up with old memories and new feelings. I just wanted to be close to you, even if that meant never being more than your neighbor." I walked toward him, heart pounding. "Jake, you could have told me. Maybe I would have been scared. But maybe I also would have said yes sooner." He finally looked at me again, something like hope flickering in his eyes. "Are you saying yes now?" he asked quietly. I took his hand. "I'm saying maybe I already have." He let out a shaky laugh, pulling me into the warmest, safest hug I'd ever felt. But even as I stood there, wrapped in him, heart finally catching up to everything we could be, a question lingered in the back of my mind. If he waited this long to tell me the truth, what else was he waiting to say? Something told me the story wasn't over. Not even close. He held me like I was something he'd been afraid to touch for too long. His arms around me were strong, familiar, like they'd always belonged there. And for a moment, I forgot to be afraid. I forgot the months of second-guessing. The mornings I thought he was just being kind. I forgot every heartbreak before him. It all melted in the way he breathed against my hair and whispered. I've waited so long for this, but I still felt it, that quiet tension under his skin. The kind that doesn't come from nerves, the kind that comes from holding something back. I pulled away slightly, just enough to see his face. Jake, is there more? He froze, and that pause, it said everything. There's always been more, he admitted. Voice low, but I wasn't sure if I had the right to tell you. I swallowed. You do now, you have every right. He looked down at our hands, lacing his fingers through mine like he needed the strength. It's about your ex. My stomach tightened. The name I hadn't spoken in a year suddenly echoed in my chest. Jason, I asked, barely getting the word out. Jake nodded. I didn't just move in because I saw your profile. I moved in because I saw a post you made. A picture of your front door with a comment under it. You wrote something small, something like Fresh Start. Finally safe. But I recognized the number on the door. And I knew who you were trying to get away from. The blood drained from my face. I worked in security systems. He continued, not high-end stuff, just residential. Your ex. He once came in asking for help getting around someone's home alarm. He was angry, impatient. Said his girlfriend was keeping things from him. I didn't help him. I filed a quiet report. I never forgot his face. I stumbled back a step, my breath catching. You knew he was dangerous. Jake's eyes were full of pain. I suspected, but I didn't know what he'd done to you until I moved in. Until I started seeing the way you jumped at loud knocks. The way you double-checked your locks. The way you never opened the door all the way. Tears blurred my vision. My past had followed me like a ghost. And Jake, he had been standing between me and it all along, without ever saying a word. You were protecting me, I whispered. I wanted to be close, he said. Not to stalk, not to lie, but to watch. To make sure you were okay. And I told myself if he ever showed up, I'd be there. I looked at him, really looked. At the man who brought me coffee with a smile every morning while quietly keeping my world safe. The man who loved me in silence, not to be noticed, but to be near. You were the first man I felt safe with after him. I whispered, now I know why. He smiled sadly. I didn't expect to fall for you, but I did, hard. I brushed a tear from my cheek. And he never came back, because he probably knew you were here. Jake's grip on my hand tightened. But that's why I need to tell you the rest. Because something happened 2 nights ago. My breath caught again. What happened, Jake? He hesitated, looked over his shoulder, then leaned in closer. He's back in town. My heart stopped. I swear the wind got colder when he said it. He's back in town. Those 4 words knocked the air from my lungs. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I just stood there, frozen on that rooftop, staring into the eyes of the one man who had made me feel safe. Now telling me the one man who didn't was back. How do you know? I asked, my voice trembling. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. He opened a photo. It was a blurry image of a man in a black hoodie, half turned away from the camera, but I'd know that posture anywhere. The way he held his shoulders like a chip was carved into them. The slight limp in his left leg from that night, he drunkenly kicked my dresser. The way his hands were stuffed into his pockets like the world didn't deserve his touch. It was Jason. I saw him outside the building the night I sent you the message. Jake said, keeping his voice low. He didn't see me, but I followed him for a bit. He's staying at a motel 2 blocks away. I felt sick. What does he want? Jake's jaw tightened. I don't know yet. But he's not here by accident. The city felt smaller all of a sudden. My apartment, once my safe little cave, now felt like a trap. My hands started shaking. Jake noticed. Hey, look at me. He stepped closer, cupping my face gently. You are not alone, not anymore, you hear me. I nodded, barely holding it together. Why didn't you tell me right away? Because I didn't want to scare you, and I didn't want to look like some jealous guy making things up to get close to you. He looked down. I needed to be sure. Sure of what? He looked back into my eyes. Sure that you'd trust me when I said, I'll protect you. Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. But the fear creeping into my chest was older than this moment. It was rooted in nights I spent hiding under my bed, in whispers to friends that never turned into action, in promises from police officers that were never kept. Jake wrapped his arms around me again. We're going to get through this. I whispered into his chest, what if he comes here? Jake didn't even hesitate. Then I'll be waiting. But something in his voice told me he already was. And just when I thought the rooftop was the scariest place I'd be that day, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out slowly. Unknown number, nice sweater, stormy skies, right. I dropped the phone. Jake picked it up and read the message. His face darkened. He's been watching you. My knees buckled, and Jake caught me before I hit the ground. He pulled me close and whispered in my ear. He made a mistake coming back. This time you're not alone. But as the wind picked up and the city swirled below us, I couldn't help but feel something was coming. Something I couldn't stop. Something we'd have to face together. Jake didn't say another word. He just held me tighter, his jaw clenched, eyes scanning the horizon like he was already imagining every way to shield me. I was shaking, not just from fear, but from the ugly realization that no matter how far I'd run, no matter how carefully I rebuilt myself, Jason had found a way to crawl back into my life. I looked down at the phone in Jake's hand. The message still glowed on the screen. Nice sweater, stormy skies, right. He remembered that stupid compliment from a night we weren't even speaking. A night I wore the same sweater while packing the last of my things. Too afraid to sleep, too broken to cry. He'd said it as a joke, just to see if he could still get under my skin. And now it was proof. He had eyes on me. Jake pulled out his own phone, already dialing. "Who are you calling?" I whispered. "A friend," he said. "Former coworker. Someone who knows how to find shadows." "Jake, I'm not letting him near you." He locked eyes with me. "I promise." I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe Jake was strong enough to stop him. But Jason wasn't just cruel, he was smart, manipulative, calculated. He didn't just hurt you physically, he unraveled you slowly. And if he was watching me now, what else had he seen? What else did he know? Jake hung up and slid his phone back into his pocket. He's going to run a trace on the number. If Jason's using a burner, it'll take longer. But we'll find out where that message came from. I swallowed. "Jake, I can't go back to that. I can't live like I'm being hunted again." "You won't," he said firmly. "I'll stay with you. Day and night if I have to. He doesn't get to haunt you anymore." The door to the rooftop creaked behind us. Both our heads snapped around. It was just Mrs. Rayner from apartment 5C, carrying her little pug in a sweater. She waved, then slowly shuffled to the far side of the roof. Jake exhaled but didn't relax. His hand never left the small of my back. "I think," I said slowly, "he wants me scared. Not hurt, not yet, just scared." Jake looked at me. "And are you?" "Yes," I said honestly, "but not of him, not anymore." He frowned, confused. "Then what?" I turned to face him fully. "Of what happens when this is over. When he's gone, when the danger disappears, and I'm just a girl in love with the guy next door who brought me coffee for a year." Jake stared at me for a long second. Then without warning, he leaned in and kissed me. Not out of panic, not out of fear, but like he'd been waiting for the right moment to finally mean it. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "Let's survive this," he whispered. "Then we'll figure out what we are." My voice trembled. "And what if surviving it is the easy part?" He smiled softly. "Then loving you will be the hard part. And I've never been afraid of hard things." But just as we began to breathe again, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, another message. "You always did fall for the hero. Too bad they don't always make it to the end." Jake saw it too, and this time he didn't flinch. He pulled me close and whispered, "Let him watch, because the next time he comes close, I won't just be bringing coffee. I didn't sleep that night." Every sound made me jump. Every flicker of the hallway light outside my apartment felt like a warning. Jake stayed with me just like he promised. He didn't leave my side, not even to grab his charger from his own place. He sat on the floor next to my bed, while I curled up beneath the covers. Wide-eyed and wired, we didn't talk much. There was nothing left to say that hadn't already been spoken in whispers and glances and trembling hands. But sometime after midnight, when the world was quiet and my heart was finally slowing, I asked him the question that had been clawing at the edge of my mind all day. "Jake, what if he's not just here to scare me?" He turned his head slowly. "What do you mean?" "What if he wants to finish what he started?" I whispered. Jake stood and climbed onto the bed beside me. Not touching me, just close enough that I could feel his warmth. "Then he picked the wrong city," he said, voice sharp with conviction. "And the wrong girl, because you're not who you were back then. And you're not alone this time." I nodded, even though doubt still crept in like smoke under a locked door. That's the thing about trauma, it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers lies in the middle of the night. But Jake, he was louder, even in silence. The next morning, we didn't do coffee. We did plans. Jake's friend, Mark, texted back just before sunrise. Numbers real, bought 2 days ago with cash. Traced it to a burner sold outside Riverbend gas station. Cameras are trash, but I'm pulling what I can. Jake showed me the message and tapped his screen. Riverbend's a few blocks from the motel he's likely staying at. He's circling. Then what do we do? I asked. Jake hesitated. We let him come to us. My stomach turned. Jake. No, listen, we do it our way. We get cameras installed today. My friend has equipment, discreet stuff. Hidden, we don't just wait for him, we watch him watching us. We flip the script. I felt a strange thrill ripple through me. Fear and power braided together. Okay, I said. That day moved in slow motion. Cameras went up. I let Jake rearrange the furniture, something about creating clean sightlines and angles. I started locking my doors in a new order, triple-checked every window, and even left a light on in every room. It felt like war prep, but it also felt like healing. That night, as I was brushing my teeth, I saw something in the mirror that stopped me cold. A reflection, not mine, someone standing outside my window. I froze. Jake was in the kitchen. I couldn't scream, I couldn't even breathe. I moved slowly to the side. Like if I shifted too fast, the image would vanish. But it didn't. He stood in the shadows, motionless, watching me. A hoodie, a limp. Jason. My throat tightened as I backed into the hallway and whispered, Jake. He appeared instantly, saw my face, and didn't ask. He ran straight to the window, yanked the curtain aside. Empty street. No one there. But I knew what I saw. Jake's jaw clenched. He's testing you, seeing how close he can get. My voice shook. He's already too close. He hung up and turned to me. We end this tomorrow. I stared at him. How? Jake's eyes burned like I'd never seen before. We make him believe he's already won. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying and beautiful at once. Jake wasn't just protecting me anymore. He was fighting for me.